And those are the stories that you've written for the Golfers Journal. Most notably, the most recent one in Golfers Journal 23, which we hope people are enjoying, Gloriously Ugly, playing golf via YouTube. Tell us about, well, I guess that's sort of what the story is. It's self-explanatory, the golf that we consume on YouTube. But what was your interest in doing this, and how did it go?
So it came out of a conversation with your colleague, Casey Bannon.
Yeah.
We were just talking about, golf and life in general. And he, being an incredibly good golfer in his own right, was
He
talking about
is. It's
how,
annoying.
yeah, right? It's
Love you,
awful.
Casey.
Um, he was talking about how he didn't enjoy watching that, right? Because he's better than a lot of these people who are, who are going and making this, YouTube content, follow me
Yeah.
around whatever course, right?
Outside of the
Um,
Bryant brothers, he's better than all of them. Sorry.
and yeah, and so that prompted me to say, oh, I have the exact opposite experience. I love it. And he asked me why, and that sort of, my initial response was to say, I don't actually know, let's find out. And that's how it became the story. Like a lot of good stories, just, it's kind of a show your work, explain why you feel a way you feel. And
Mhm.
that led me into, I, having the golf bug, like I said, a lot of times you're just, if you can't be out there yourself, you just want to be around the game in some way. You want to experience it. Or if you're going to go to a great place, like my Disneyland is Bandon Dunes, about 8 hours south of here. I get to go once a year, but in between I sort of want my fix, right? So sometimes I'll watch people play Old Mac or Trails or whatever. And anyhow, so I was like a casual sort of watcher of this, but then I did the deep dive for the piece and sort of ruined my life for a week. My wife went out of town, and I was a freelancer at that time, and I just said to myself, all right, I'm gonna let the algorithm do what it wants to do with me, and it was just, I mean, I watched so much awful golf. I
Thanks for the shout out, by the way. I was reading the story, like, oh shit, I'm in this.
the lead of the piece is about sort of like, at least I think it's the lead still, like the rock bottom, which is that I fell asleep watching it,
Oh
like
yeah.
watching YouTube, and then I woke up in at 3 a.m. with my laptop like sitting on my stomach on my bed, just playing a video that had like 10 views or something of some guy in Wisconsin, just with his own homemade shot tracker. And he was like, plus 23 on the seventh hole or something. It was just like, I had really gone to like the bottom of the
You
rabbit
reached
hole.
the bottom of the
Yeah.
golf internet. Yes. It's a great lead because it does capture that feeling of like feeling like you're hitting rock bottom, as if you're waking up with like another empty bottle or something, and all the regret that goes with it, and how did I arrive here, which is really funny, going down that rabbit hole. What did you discover about, well, what's the what's the worst thing you saw, and what are the best things that you saw?
I mean, I think broadly speaking, the best stuff in my mind is, I mean, what the no laying up guys do right now, I think is sort of a bit of, they're no strangers to the Golfers Journal or this
No, they're
podcast.
great friends of the Golfers Journal.
I think it kind of transcends, the genre, right? And that's like it's like their most recent tourist sauce season is golf competition and a travel show, and also just about like the nature of being alive. Like it's truly wonderful. And I think they always do sort of the best job of sort of capturing that experience of being with people who you love, doing this amazing thing, and just the sort of the glorious nature of what golf can be. And then I mean, the worst stuff, there's just so many people who like see that and then say like, I'm gonna go do it. and it's totally fun. Like I'm all for it. I'm not trying to shame anyone here, but
Sure.
there's just like so much of that, the rock bottom, so to speak, and then in between, I think what I notice is there's just kind of like a YouTube golfer group for like every type of person, right? There's sort of like the broier crowd, there's like the Gen Z crowd, there's the sort of, the more kind of like prankster style, or like almost like, a Howard Sternish like element to it. There's all different kinds, and it's sort of like depending on what your personality is and what you like out of golf. I think that there really is like everyone's doing sort of the same thing, but there's some,
Mhm.
version that you're going to click with.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely insightful about, what No Laying Up is doing. And it's interesting. I think their storytelling is getting more compelling the farther it gets away from golf.
Yeah.
And as a a golf writer myself, I've certainly that's been the case from day one. That a lesson that I continue to remind myself of, but that the farther that the stories can actually get away from whether you made birdie or bogey. I mean, that's part of it, and golf is a great landscape on which to sort of lay a story for sure. Great setting, nemesis, protagonist, all that stuff. Great challenges. It has all the sort of pieces and hardware that you need for storytelling. But at the end of the day, I think even the more recent No Laying Up stuff is you're less concerned about making the putts, and it's more about like, wow, what is this experience doing to them as people? And I think that sort of ties to what you do as a technology writer as well, that when you're doing that probably at your best, you're probably not dealing with the coding and binary things and all
Yeah.
that you're talking more about people, right? Stories are about people.
A- Absolutely. I think that's totally right. And it's like, I think it's a really good sort of, uh, just lesson in how to do any kind of, I mean, I want to call it journalism or storytelling. Content is sort of what it becomes when you push it into the
Content.
internet realm,
Yeah.
the dreaded content word. Yeah, I think I think one way too that what I sort of ended up trying to say in the piece is that like anything, especially online and digitally, like you form these parasocial relationships with people, right? Like
Mhm.
I know a couple of the No Laying Up guys, just a little bit, but I've never met any of them in person, and yet listening to their podcast, watching all these series is like I get invested in them as people, right? Or Barstool has a Breaking 90 series for one of their golfers who's the least skilled of the bunch, and watching like I don't religiously watch that content, but as I did, I got really invested in his journey, right, and
Hmm.
in him sort of as a person. And you can see in the comments the people who care deeply about this person they've never met in their journey. And I think like the reason why the No Laying Up stuff feels so much sort of almost more profound or advanced as it gets further away from the score is just like is that they've done such a good job developing themselves as like fully fledged three-dimensional human beings, and you
Sure.
just care about their experience, you care about their experience together, but also just like um you're really invested in these people, and I think that that's truly like that's what matters. And that's sort of what I ended up kind of coming away with. There's sort of two modes when I'm watching the YouTube golf stuff. One is like I just want to see people hitting shots at golf courses I've either been to or I want to go to, and that scratches the itch when it's 38 and drizzly out here. And then the other is just that like yeah, I genuinely sort of care about some of these people I've never met now, and I want to watch. I just want to go along the ride with them.